Losing sight of it, it came right down the hall and knocked Momo off Okarun's back before giving our Super Saiyan emo child a 5-piece combo. It from leading to its shape starting to give way. Momo manages to grab hold of it and gives Okarun the chance to go all out with the newly heightened speed that even put the evil eye in the dirt. Dandadan is a phenomenal show with a ridiculous cast, and the animators just gave us one of the best animated fights of the year in an episode with a bit of table setting for the rest of the season. So how do you follow up an episode with that much peak action exactly? This is Do It All Dandadan, so you know they gave us peak comedy next. But they low-key pissed me off, and here I'm gonna tell you why. So grab a bev, some media eats, and let's talk about what they cooked up for us this time. So we open up with what appeared to be Okarun's morning routine after his school alarm went off. Except it wasn't our nerdy king. We got balloon animal Okarun out here looking like the Walmart great value version of any regular brand ever created. Bro had the audacity to give me a 360, as if I asked for that. Bro, you are not a BBL baddie. Walk it out, bucko. Bro got a rainbow deck of combs inside the jacket too. I know off this alone, he's a sick dude. Skip forward and we see him singing a theme song while walking down the street towards the school. And do my eyes deceive me? Or did bro just give me another 360 with a freaking jetpack for a backpack? What buffoonery is he up to? He whips out the comb again to comb his hair back into place just to have to button up the jacket again as he walks. And then he gets close up on the school around regular human beings and he starts getting real quiet with his singing. And thank goodness. That was so horrid I almost beamed my phone at the screen like Ashton Hall with the PS5 controller. We see everybody entering the school gate and then peep that this episode is a more detailed flashback of previous events to start out when Okarun is hiding and making funny faces before attempting to figure out whether or not he should even greet Momo this morning. But remember, this portion of the episode has Okarun before the real lock-in, so he's a lot softer than we'd expect him to be now. He walks past Momo since he couldn't figure out how to talk to her and figured the safest option was to just say nothing. Luckily, she bumps into him to defuse the situation and walk together to class. And here we go with part 2 of the buffoonery. Because why are you walking to class and staring down another man as a pretty girl bumps into him? Why was Okarun even on your radar? Before this, he was just a nerd that got pushed around and ignored in class. But I digress. We see Okarun setting up for the school day while glossing through his books before getting hit with a volleyball, and then the great value nerd can be seen in the back of the classroom pretending to read books while staring dead at my goat. Later on, we see Okarun doodling in his notebook about the last adventure he had with Momo against Turbo Granny, and this weirdo is still staring at him from the back of the classroom behind a book. Lunch starts and we see the rom-com shenanigans as Okarun and Momo go looking for each other through the sea of people in the hallway and dramatically miss each other on the way to each other's classrooms. And for some reason, now I have to watch the great value weirdo looking for somebody too? They separately go to the cafeteria and co-op areas, and then end up sitting on the benches in the breezeway area after failing to see each other once again. We have them right across from each other, separated by 2 small walls with windows, but they cutely don't realize that each other are there. Then we see this fat-nosed bum across the bushes on the opposite bench from our nerdy goat. We have Okarun and Momo out here thinking about how each other could be and how they might want to see each other, but the other person may not want to see them, you know, basic overthinking stuff in young relationships type deal. But do you know what this weirdo had for an internal dialogue? Nothing. We then see Okarun and Momo prep to head back, and all 3 of them get up at the same time and walk into the hallway of the breezeway. Then we have one of the first cutesy but cliche moments of the young couple where they bump heads while looking at the floor and accidentally kiss. But now we have the animators trying to change history and gaslight us. Because what do you mean Momo's 2 friends were in the doorway behind this weirdo? When the scene first happened, bro was nowhere to be found. I went back to rewatch the old episode so I could be sure I didn't have the Alzheimer's of somebody double Granny Seiko's age. From there, we see the great value nerd vying for our nerdy king's attention in class like some peacock doing a mating dance. First with a book covering his face while subtly and loudly coughing in front of Okarun's row, then the second approach by putting together and flying a Gundam around the classroom like a 4-year-old that got to bring his favorite toy to school for show and tell. Whole time, Okarun just looks up at him for 2 seconds and right back at his books. Bro then decides to spam his ultimate move, singing that theme song from 2 feet away from Okarun's desk. When Okarun finally looks up at him, bro says, "I see you, my enemy." And Okarun goes right back to reading out of his book. Not going to lie, I would have too, because what the heck is dude even talking about right now? We've never spoken words or acknowledged each other's existence before, and the first thing you say to me is "I'm your op"? Yeah, walk it out, buddy. So he tells Okarun that he was talking to him the whole time, and he's obviously shook, because why though? Then this bum follows up by saying, "I'm not really into guys, but I don't have a choice." Like, gang, what do you mean you don't have a choice? A choice to do what? Why are you harassing me? Okarun sits there blushing while lost in the sauce just like me, and after a long pause, this clown finally reveals his intentions. He asks how Okarun gets along with Momo, and as a matter of fact, Ira too. Then for his reasoning, he says, "You're not particularly handsome, you're short, and quite dull." Brother, what? I'm getting my looks graded by the fatter version of myself with no neck and a middle part? Bro probably built like the Michelin Man up under there talking about how Okarun is not particularly handsome. If the fat clone even thinks he's average, then Okarun has to be at least an 8.5 out of 10. Bro called him short and all? Lord forbid a man go to school and actually do school. Like, what are we even talking about here? What type of hating is this? Bro chatting like,
"If the girls are gonna go after him, I should definitely have a few on my arm too. I mean, come on, look at this guy."
Bro got me fuming. Whole time, Okarun is just lost in the sauce wondering what's even going on before saying it isn't even that deep. Bro was dying to know how he got along with the pretty girls. We finally get saved from the cringe when Momo rushes in to tell Okarun about the golden ball that she had a theory about. She asks if she was interrupting, but the clown starts blushing and saying that she wasn't, and him and Okarun were kind of friends. And this interaction got me thinking, if I'm Okarun, bro, did this man just walk up to me to ride my meat that I currently don't even have because Turbo Granny scattered it across the city like the Dragon Balls, and you like the girl that I like? Brother, push off! We then see the class president enter the fray after Okarun suggests they talk about the golden ball in private elsewhere when she says they don't want Momo running all up in the class when everybody else is trying to study and stuff. Not gonna lie, that's a respectable take, but when I saw her 2 emotional support animal-esque friends standing behind her, I knew something else was amiss. Momo apologized for the disturbance and then told Okarun to follow her outside. As they start walking though, the class pres tells Okarun he doesn't have to go when it doesn't look like he wants to for real. She says if he doesn't want to tell Momo he doesn't want to, then she'll stand up for him. At this point, I knew exactly what happened. The pres low-key likes Okarun, but can't really work up the courage to say anything. Momo asks Okarun if she's correct. He obviously says no, but asks what's actually going on. For once, the clone wasn't pissing me off though, cause the head swivel back and forth was my exact reaction to the scene as it was unfolding. And the pres isn't even ugly for real. She's low-key kinda cute. Might be the safer option if we didn't know what we knew about Momo and Granny Seiko, of course. Momo and the pres get face to face and state their cases, and the pres even apologizes to Okarun for not peeping it sooner, but that he can tell her anything because she's the class president. Momo wasn't having any of that nonsense and straight yelled at Okarun to tell the class president that she was an idiot. He starts to speak, but the pres tells her to stop pressuring him. Then, hang on, at a time like this, I know my eyes have to be deceiving me. That back and forth movement. Is the clone gooning to this argument? I get that they're both baddies, but are we dead serious right now? The front angle doesn't help his case either. Bro is blushing and sweating while talking about how popular Okarun is. Gang, pop it out! He doesn't even have all his meat right now. Quit hogging it, please! Bro starts talking about how pretty Momo is like he's about to bust, and then when he reaches his limit, he slides in front of everybody and says, 10-gallon weenie, while stanced up like a complete freakazoid. Then after everybody stares at him in complete silence, just says, wiener. Brother, what are you on? We skip forward and see Momo and Okarun walking after school, and Momo is pissed because the president stood up to her, but Okarun is just glad that people in his class finally spoke to him. Momo turns up the heat though, saying it's probably because he's been pretty cool lately, and Okarun immediately peeps game and starts blushing. Bro says, really? And Momo says, yeah, while facing away from him. Then, being the simple man that he is, Okarun lets out a quiet hooray. And nothing gets a girl to open up and get comfortable like a little cute slip up like that. Momo bursts out laughing, talking about the way that he said hooray, and Okarun is left embarrassed. He asks her what he should have said, and she tells him nothing else because that's just like him to say. After another cute but awkward moment, Momo turns his attention back towards the picture her friend showed her about the golden floating ball. They start walking again while chatting about it. Then we see the no-necked goblin trying to listen in behind a nearby wall, talking about how they're definitely talking about something spicy. Bro ponders as to why Okarun can pull off that language, but him saying stuff like that gets him put on the chopping block by Momo. It was at this point I realized he wasn't trying to be weird when he was itching to bust in class while Momo and the Prez were arguing. He was trying to fit in and get brownie points with Momo by talking spicy to her like her and Okarun were. Still weird, but slightly more acceptable now. Bro starts doing the weird posing thing again, talking about how he has to know Okarun's method and how he will get to be lovey-dovey with girls like Momo. Just as he ponders why they ended up in the apartment complex, this clown accidentally kicks a can and has to play it off and act like he wasn't following them the entire time. As he steps forward, he starts floating and then a green domain expands around them. He then goes flying at Momo, and instead of thinking about how terrible it would be to collide with his schoolmate at full speed or how he wants to stop, the first thought in this clown's mind is,
at this rate, Miss Ayase's lips will touch mine.
brother, what? Somebody check his hard drive because I know he has some non-consensual stuff on there. And we don't do that in this section. We team Okarun out here in these streets. Luckily, Okarun intervenes at the last second and leaves that bozo knocked and laying on the ground. Momo thinks that the perv is the ball spirit's true form. And as much sense as that regrettably makes, Okarun snapped her back into reality to direct her attention to the floating golden ball down the hall. They both try to catch it with Momo missing first with her spirit hands, and then Okarun tries to grab it with both hands when he landed right in front of it, but he was repelled, at which point he made a key fact abundantly clear to both Momo and us. It's not just a floating golden ball, there's a physical form surrounding it even if they can't see it. As soon as he reveals this, we see the golden ball retreating from them. Momo hops on Okarun's back and they gave chase, and the great value freak finally wakes up from his nap. Momo tasks him with watching their backpacks while they go handle business. They chase the ball up the stairs, and after losing sight of it, it came right down the hall and knocked Momo off Okarun's back before giving our Super Saiyan emo child a 5-piece combo. Momo jumps back on Okarun and they keep chasing it to the roof, where Okarun elects not to try and catch it, but instead disable whatever is around the ball with a flying kick. Momo tries to clap it unconscious but misses and follows up with a punch that connects. Okarun tries to land another hit but gets sent flying into the railing before it once again retreats, this time to the lower levels. Okarun grabs onto Momo in order for her to use her spirit hands to swing them alongside the walls of the building. Just as she catches sight of it, the ball doubled back and hit both her and Okarun and sent them spiraling into the cement below. She shielded them with their spirit hands, but it still knocked the wind out of both of them and turned Okarun back into his normal form. While Momo compared about it not being fair that it could be invisible, and Okarun sat baffled about how useless he felt, the perv could be heard screaming from the levels above in the complex. Last time I checked, Momo told him to watch the bags, so why did he think it was smart to follow them as they chased the thing that threw him like a rag doll merely 5 minutes ago? Great question. I have no idea. But what I do know is he got thrown over the railing as they ran up the stairs to save him, and then Momo had to use a spirit hand to catch him and bring him back to their floor. And of course, the backpacks were nowhere to be found. Bro tells him to stand back so he can handle it, and I'm lost because I have no idea what he thinks he can do. Again, the thing just threw him over the edge of an apartment railing in an attempt to end his life. Bro goes full nerd boy though and runs at the ball while calling out a jet stream attack before face planting into the floor. He did actually suggest something partially useful though, saying that it may be using retroreflective projection technology and they need to look at it from 3 separate angles in order to counter it. As if realizing he was right, the ball retreats by crashing into the nearest apartment door and then proceeding to decimate every single wall of the apartments to the left of it. We see the pervy clone start running after it and Momo senses presence and used her spirit arms to propel her through the windows of the nearest apartment. It gets forced into the hallway and we finally see the plan work as all 3 of them have 3 separate angles to view it from, leading to its shape starting to give way. Momo manages to grab hold of it and gives Okarun the chance to go all out with the newly heightened speed that even put the evil eye in the dirt. After sending the creature flying, they regroup and Momo thanks them for their help but asks the great value clone what it is that led him to know about the weakness. He takes this as his time to shine and adjusts his glasses before talking about the book that he actually was reading earlier in class. She didn't really care for the in-depth explanation though, and her and Okarun were looking at the now defeated dinosaur thing. Realizing that it wasn't a spirit, Okarun just called it a kaiju, and then he starts cheesing with his eyes twinkling. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm tapped in on kaiju number 8, and if you've seen the show, then you know a kaiju is not the type of problem Okarun and Momo need in the city right now. They decide to go down and check to see if there was actually a golden ball, and for some reason they decide to take the stairs instead of using Momo's spirit hands. As they walk off and the clone begs Okarun to explain how to make spicy talking work to him, we see the kaiju start supersizing. Momo starts kicking him in the backside, and this freak, this deviant, starts talking about how much he likes it. Then Okarun looks back and calls for Momo to peep the terrible news. Looking through the hole in the wall was a supersized version of the thing, but it gets worse. Bro seemed to triple in size and now was double the size of the entire complex building. And here I was thinking this episode was just gonna be comedy.
These niggas out here snitching, they with the rat pack.
As it attempts to approach her again, she launched the entire crane at its upper body. So we left off with Tubi Movie Godzilla supersizing around the building, and you know exactly what happened next. Momo, Okarun, and Copycat Kinta all put on the burners trying to run down the hall as the monster tore through the building with a single swipe. Okarun points our attention to the sky, and we peep that it's the alien black night sky overhead, which tells us that this was never a spirit kaiju they were dealing with. It was an alien kaiju the entire time. They finally get outside and start sprinting down the city block. And timeout. Adrenaline must have been doing numbers in Kinta's body because he was low-key keeping pace with Momo and Okarun while they were all successfully outpacing a 300 feet tall Goliath of a space dinosaur. We skip across town and see Ira outside of a shop alone, and Gigi comes rushing on over to her. This is the first time he's ever been stuck in a domain expansion, and it actually makes sense because despite his spiritual capabilities and affinity before, this is the first time it happened while the evil eye was inside of him.
What did he say?
Time it happened while the evil eye was inside of him. They run after the voices of Momo and Okarun, which was a terrible idea, might I add. But they found out real quickly as a cloud of dust appeared on the street and Momo wasted no time screaming that they needed to run in the opposite direction. It looked like Kinta's build finally caught up to him though, because he dramatically tripped and cried out for help, admitting that he can't run forever, obviously. Right before the alien dinosaur stomped him out like your uncle does his cigarettes when he's done with them, Momo and Ira throw nearby cars at the dinosaur as Okarun goes Super Saiyan Emo to drag Kinta out of the way. Momo tells Gigi to take Kinta and run while they hold off the beast. Ira temporarily disables it by wrapping her hair around its head and covering its eyes. But then, brother, is that a hyper beam? Bro charged up the energy blast like a few other huge creatures we know but will no longer compare it to due to licensing and copyright concerns, and the beam was so strong, it literally disintegrated her hair. Luckily, she jumped away at the last moment though. It then let out a crushing roar that was louder than my my mom calling out my name when she sees my final grades from the classes of this semester. Ira starts cooking right after this though and slams a car straight into the head of the space kaiju and then calls out to Momo so she could target its legs with another car. It falls down but uses its tail to ward off Okarun and Momo's advances temporarily. Ira then gets another bright idea and wraps her hair around a nearby crane and several surrounding buildings while waiting for the alien dinosaur to rise back up and fight. As it attempts to approach her again, she launched the entire crane at its upper body. It staggered back but managed to grab the crane and throw it to the side as well. Then it grabbed Ira. No! Momo tries to distract it by throwing billboards at its face, but it just pissed the monster off. Ira manages to use her hair to break free though and retreats into an alleyway. The space kaiju then starts looking for her and realizing that it was too hard with so many buildings nearby, bro just straight up karate chops the top off a nearby one and then starts rampaging, giving every single skyscraper nearby a piece of its mind. It then released another hyper beam from the cloud of smoke that surrounded it and knocked Momo off of Okarun's back and turned him back regular. Momo throws up a shield bubble to protect him like she's Sue Storm from the Fantastic Four. Then Okarun tries putting together 2 and 2 to figure out what 4 is. He believes the monster to be a descendant of the dinosaurs from 200+ million years ago, and also it adapted to live in space and learned how to harness cosmic energy to convert it into electrical power using its horns. He then gambles by making the assumption that they can stop it if they cut off the light source that it's using. Ira steps up once again and she says she'll divert its attention in the meantime so Okarun can cook. As Ira dodges the blast to get in close, Momo manages to make big spirit hands and turn the hyper beam attack back against the space dinosaur. This actually worked and temporarily disabled it on the ground while Ira pulled up on cleanup timing. But the dinosaur had other plans and instead turned the tables by switching on its invisibility as she descended from the sky. She starts bragging, thinking it ran away and the fight was over, but Okarun and Momo quickly put her on game. Unfortunately, Okarun was late with the slave and the blast of an attack impact sends her flying. She retransforms and gets airborne again but can't see through the cloud of dust around the beast. It takes this chance to charge up another hyper beam and blow her out of the sky. We see it follow up by raising its head and slamming it into the roof of the building that she fell onto. Then it let out a devious bellow as if it had already triumphed over our dancing beauty. We then get a scene switch and we see that Gigi is truly a specimen. Because what do you mean he ran with Fatty on his back all the way from the city to the residential town area? They start to have a little bit of banter and Gigi tells bro he needs to cool out with the sweating, and Kinta, not knowing any better, took it as an insult. And time out, how the heck are you sweating when the man that's been carrying you for over a mile is not sweating? You can't be that big, there's no way. Literally less than 30 seconds later, his sweaty ass cheeks connect with Gigi, who is dry as an athlete in a deodorant commercial. He drops Kinta on the ground and starts fighting against the urge to transform into the evil eye. He manages to stave it off and then turns to face Kinta and politely asks him to seriously cut that mess out. But this fat ass turns his no-neck having dome so fast that his blubbery cheeks projectile launch sweat all over Gigi. And honestly, with all that velocity, I'm surprised that it somehow didn't drop any into his mouth, because that was the only thing that could have made this whole situation worse. Of course, however, Gigi couldn't resist this much cold and slimy liquid and the evil eye came out. And right off the wake up, bro asked him, "Who are you? Do you want to be murdered?"
Jesus Christ.
As he ripped off the backpack and launched it into deep space. And somehow Kinta could tell that he changed too, which is unusual because nobody that's a normie ever does. The evil eye turns his back on Kinta and goes to walk off, but Kinta stops him talking about what Momo told him to do. The evil eye misunderstood and thought today was the day he would get to face off against Okarun and starts bolting towards Momo's house with Kinta shouting and running behind. We return to the battlefield and see the space dinosaur about to down slam Ira, but at the last possible second, Okarun goes all out and saves her. The issue, however, is that this was his second time today, which means our boy, our nerdy king,
Yes, sir! This nigga spitting!
is all out of fuel. Momo saves him from falling, and then the backpack that the evil eye launched across the city slammed into the dome of the dinosaur. They took this chance to hit the dash, but unfortunately, Ira wouldn't wake up, so Momo had to run all the way home while carrying them in her spirit hands over her head. They finally get back, and we realize that Ira was clinging to Okarun like a baby sloth to its mama while enjoying every second of it the entire time. We get a cute and jealous moment between her and Momo as Momo tries to pry her off of him, and then we see Kinta and the evil eye enter the frame. The evil eye thinks it's finally time to run the fade, so bro is cheesing. Okarun has to break the news to him, and then Momo asks Okarun if they should ask the evil eye for help because they are clearly at a disadvantage. Okarun reminds her about the promise for the evil eye to only fight him and the potential consequences that could come of it if they enlisted his assistance. Granny Seiko was in another prefecture doing a television show, so now they have to cook up a winning parlay all on their own. As the space dinosaur makes his way out of the city and walks down on them at the shrine, Okarun comes up with the idea to use the nanomachines that Mantesian gave them to rebuild their house in order to win the fight. However, Okarun struggles with mentally conjuring up something useful and big, and then for the first real time, it looks like the Pudge Lord himself is going to come in handy, because sci-fi is right up his alley. Bro turns the entire house into a giant Buddha Gurren Lagann. Then he ruins the vibe by calling it Great Quinta Bodhisattva Zeta version.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am.
He then gets all high and mighty and tells the robot to fight the dinosaur, but it just sits there in place like a statue as the Dollar Tree Kaiju continues to walk them down. So we start out the season finale with the transformation of Tengen Toppa Gurren Bodhisattva. They all pick one random button to press at the same time as the space kaiju keeps getting closer to walking them down. This leads to various pieces of the machine falling off and even the tongue sticking out of its mouth. And first of all, why is that even an option on a button? I knew Quinta was a freak, but now I know he's a super freak. They got the left arm disconnected and the right arm swinging like a propeller, reminding me of the weird kid at recess that thought he could take flight if he swung both arms fast enough. That was me. That weird kid was me. Anyways, Quinta finally peeps the lever that makes it walk and takes a step forward, except they fall right on their face, making an imprint in the dirt. They rise back up onto both knees like they're accepting their imminent defeat, and then the space dinosaur absolutely clocked them with a kick to the dome. They go flying and the airbags in the cockpits pop out as soon as they crash into the ground. The space dinosaur decides to double up the combo and uses its tail to grab hold of their ankle before swinging them around in the air like a rag doll. We see our nerdy goat Okarun ejecting his seat like an F-15 jet pilot as soon as it got shot out of the sky, and the giant mech goes crashing into the ground while Okarun struggles to break free from his chair as he lands. Just as he turns around to check on Momo and the gang, we see a green cloud of smoke pop out of the mech and the evil eye appears, shouting, "I'm free!" like he's one of Gru's minions from Despicable Me. Then he immediately gets stepped on. What kind of Tom and Jerry ass scene is this? The space dinosaur bellows, and then we see that Gigi and the evil eye weren't as cooked as we initially thought, as the evil eye slowly raises the foot of this behemoth of a beast and sends it tumbling backwards. Then the shockwave of the fall sends the evil eye twinkling into the sky like Team Rocket when they say, "We're blasting off again!" And Okarun rushes over to check on him. Evil eye wasn't even fazed by the fact that he just face-planted in the dirt and asked Okarun to run his fade now. Bro obviously says no considering the situation, and they turn around to see the space dinosaur feeding a thunderbolt directly into the face of their mech. Okarun starts to panic and the evil eye starts getting revved up because he wants to fight it. Okarun stares at the catastrophe for a second and then turns to give the evil eye permission to run its fade just this once. But before he can get it out, their Bodhisattva mech finally defended itself. It caught the foot of the space dino and lifted it up as we got to look at the absolutely crushed face that looked oddly reminiscent of can I say that on here? Let me not test my luck. But if you're down, you'll get it. Quinta starts monologuing about how he can control the robot by visualizing through the nanoskin as he kicks the space beast back. This dude then calls himself Quinta, the end of Joy Toy Pegasus Sakata. And bro, first of all, why so long? Secondly, What kind of name is that? One thing I have to give him credit for though is he gave it the Gurren Lagann sunglasses and had it dripped out in all gold plating while regenerating the missing arm. That boy looked clean. Bro runs into the fray and straight up gut punches the space dino, sending it flying. He gets hyped for a second, but then it uses its tail to grab hold of their arm and drag them towards it so it could counter. But that boy Kita had other plans. Bro straight uses the throw as a boost into a devious haymaker that he planted on the space dinosaur's chin. The dino shoots another hyper beam at them and he deflects it at first, before the second cuts off the right arm. Kinta picks up the arm and throws it right at the space dinosaur and sending it crashing into the ground. After reconnecting it, he grabbed it by its accordion tail and spun it around like he was doing a rendition of Beyblade before letting it rip and throwing it into a city building. He then runs in and shoulder checks the beast before it gathered itself and tried to swipe his feet from under him. Kinta pulled back, threw a right hook, and then grabbed the head of the space dino trying to hold it off. All of a sudden, its horn shifted downward and it fired another hyper beam dead center on their mech. Bro got hit so hard that he got blasted into his memories of being bullied for buying one of those mech toys as a high school boy. Bro had a straight CTE crash out as he reached for the crumpled mech box on the ground in his memory that also doubled as the arm for the IRL mech that got cut off again. He reconnected it, let out a battle cry, and started sprinting dead at the space dinosaur. And I'm not gonna lie, this guy might be a little bit of a creep, and fat, and kinda ugly. But it's just something about somebody that faces adversity and keeps on getting up and fighting back regardless that just... Man, that just gets me fired up. This man Kita goes berserko, straight clobbers the dino with a down slam, threw it across the city while breaking off one of its horns in the process, and just as it tried to take debris to throw at him, he boomed it in the head again like a pump action shotgun to the dome at point blank range in OG Fortnite. Then, while still monologuing about how much he loves robots and felt like he was born to do just this, he got airborne and did a spinning drop before putting both fists dead in the center of the chest of the dinosaur. But then, it disappeared. He tried to take advantage of the nanoskin to customize it and make it so he could see it with infrared vision, which is low-key smart. But if you think the dinosaur was just gonna sit there and let itself keep getting cooked on camera, you're tweaking. Straight cleared the leg from the body and then turned on the airbags. Then it grabbed their other leg with its tail and started flinging them like a ragdoll back and forth into the concrete. I'm talking Hulk to Loki action in Avengers. Momo uses her spirit powers to stop it, and Ira uses this chance to wrap it up in her hair so they could see it now. Kinta tries to keep taking charge, but they basically tell him to shut up so they can cook because he was giving them motion sickness. Even though the limbs were scattered, Momo used her spirit energy to pull them in close so they could take care of the opportunity. They spin and twirl it up in the air, trying to give it motion sickness. Then Momo says she's seen enough of the BS and decides she wants to powerbomb it, headfirst into the concrete below. Then it was over. The dinosaur deflated and the world instantly returned to normal. Everybody starts pulling out phones and Momo tries to turn the mech back into her house, but it makes a sort of house mecha UFO hybrid before they make their escape floating off into the sunset, doing their best to place it back normally at the shrine property. We see Momo and Ira get sick and Kinta looks like he's about to, but instead he starts crying because he actually got to pilot a robot. And honestly, dude, valid reaction. You earned those tears, King. You're still fat, but I kinda rock with you now. We skip back over to Okarun's perspective from the ground as he got left behind, and then he realized that everybody was taking pictures of the kaiju that shrunk down to the size of a movie theater costume instead of disappearing like the others. He tries to get the evil eye to help him carry it, but the evil eye climbed onto a building and pulled a 3-year-old's favorite, "I'm not listening to you anymore" line. Okarun got creative and bought a hot bun to convince him to jump down. Because it was hot though, it made Gigi return and he had Gigi help him carry the beast away. We then see them running from normal people with cameras, phones, and selfie sticks while Okarun tried explaining the situation away. They literally outran the entire crowd from the city while carrying at least 500 to 1,000 pounds on their shoulders. If that's not dog mentality, then I don't know what is. They make it back to Momo's place and collapse on the ground before Kinta came outside doing some aura acting. I promise you, it was just as goofy as before though. Okarun tried to explain the purpose of their actions and how it's not to fight kaiju or to protect the earth, but more importantly to find a golden ball. Bro tried to lend Okarun and Momo his power, but obviously Okarun says no thanks, because why would he need it? But anyways, Gigi tries to add his 2 cents, but Quinta says that he can't trust him because he's pretty and because of his split personalities, which is pretty fair. We see Okarun investigating the mouth of the beast and then seeing a person inside. The boys bicker about who's going to check it out and Okarun takes the initiative. Peeping that there was a big zipper thing, he unzipped what actually did end up being a kaiju suit, and a beautiful girl with blondish lime hair and antennae poking out of the top of her head appears. She opens her eyes, and then we see Momo drag herself out of the house with Ira not far behind. We see things from her perspective, and that girl did what? She kissed our nerdy king in 4K? Oh no! Momo squeezed the nanoskin block in her hand that was attached to her house, and whatever she imagined just made the house that they've just returned blow up! And I think Ira was still inside! Rest in peace, beauty. A new love interest is present to take your place, but we will miss you. But let's call a spade a spade. Plot armor prevents her loss like that. I'm sure she's fine. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes season 2 of Dandadan. Season 3 is already in the works as we speak, and you know we're touching that just as much as I want Granny Seiko to touch me when it drops. I've got a few more Dandadan compilation videos dropping as we transition into the fall season of anime. If you have any shows this season you want me to cover, let me know in the comments below and I'll make it happen. But that's all I have for you today. And if you liked the video, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, become a member to help support the content, and join the Discord to come chat it up. And like I always say, for the last time this season, AYC, what you got for me?
Your theme is peace.